What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, UFC 150 picks. UFC 150 going down this weekend. Fight gloves, as always, are on and ready to go. 150, it's a big number. Their 150th, I guess, marquee event, because we know UFC's had a lot more than 150 events. It's a big number, and what we're being treated to is a card full of interesting fights, if not real marquee ones, aside from the main event, which is the rematch of one of the best fights from last year. We're going to start on the preliminary card. First fight of the night in the featherweight division. We have Nick Lentz taking on Eiji Mitsuoka. Nick Lentz, 21-5-2-1 on his pro career. He is 5-2-1-1 in the octagon, so he's got a wealth of octagon experience, this being his 10th fight. Currently riding a 2-loss streak to Evan Dunham and Mark Bocek. He's got 15 finishes on his pro career, 6 by knockout, 9 by submission. Lentz is a finisher. Former Div 1 All-American wrestler, I believe. He's also got a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So Nick Lentz is one of those fighters, another one of those fighters that's very well-rounded and dangerous wherever the fight goes. Eiji Mitsuoka, 18-8-2 on his pro career. He lost his octagon debut being TKO'd by Takanori Gomi. He's got 11 submission wins, but he hasn't finished anybody by submission since 2009. So that's, we're pushing 3 years now since Mitsuoka has finished anybody on the ground. It doesn't mean that he's not a good grappler. It just means, he's having some trouble finishing guys off in the last couple of years. And that's where I think the big advantage goes to Nick Lentz. Nick Lentz is a finisher. He's dangerous everywhere the fight goes. Mitsuoka has okay hands, and he showed good hands against Gomi, but just doesn't have the same kind of technical striking or power striking that Nick Lentz has. I'm taking Nick Lentz here all day. I'm going to take him by TKO in the second round. Moving to the bantamweight division, we have Dustin Paige taking on Chico the King Camus. Dustin Paige, 11-6 on his pro career, has a losing record of 1-2 in the UFC. Lost a somewhat controversial, to me at least, split decision to Ken Stone in his last fight. He has finished all 11 of his wins, and he has been finished in 4 of his 6 losses. So Paige kind of getting the reputation as, I don't know if you want to call him a wild fighter, but he's certainly getting the reputation as a guy that is in exciting fights and in fights that finish. Chico Camus, 11-3 on his pro career, making his UFC debut. Currently riding a 3-fight win streak. Actually, all 3 of those wins come by way of decision in smaller promotions. But 7 of his 8 wins prior to those 3 wins all came by way of finishes. So Camus is an exciting fighter. He's a fighter that gets finishes, but he may be developing a more sort of all-around game. And this is a dangerous fight for Dustin Paige. All the same, last time I took Dustin Paige was in that Ken Stone fight, so I ended up on the losing end of that. But I am going to take Dustin Paige in this fight again. I think the more UFC experience, obviously this will be his 4th UFC fight, all 11 of his wins, again, have been finishes. Paige is a very solid fighter. I think he's a little underrated. Going to take Paige here, but I'm going to take Paige to get his first ever decision victory by way of unanimous on all 3 judges' scorecards. Moving to the bantamweights, we have Ken Stone taking on Erik Perez. Stone, 11-3 on his pro career, has a winning record of 2-1 inside the octagon. Currently riding a 2-fight win streak over Dustin Paige and, I can't remember his first name, but Walker. Trains an American Top Team, so he's got a very good training camp behind him, all-around camp. 10 of his 11 professional wins have been finishes. He's got 4 knockouts and 6 subs. Erik Perez, 11-4 in his pro career, won his octagon debut by subbing John Albert. Didn't look great in that fight, but still ended up getting a controversial, of course, technical submission, verbal submission, whatever you want to call it. Currently riding a 6-fight win streak. Has 7 submission wins on his career, but in decisions, he is 1-4, so he is 1-3 when the fight goes to the judges. I don't think this fight is going to go to the judge, and I don't think Erik Perez is going to end up on the winning side of things. I liked what I saw from Ken Stone in that fight with Dustin Paige, even though I still thought Paige won the fight. I'm going to take Ken Stone here, being slightly more well-rounded. Going to take Ken Stone by way of knockout or technical knockout inside the 3rd round. Moving to the middleweights, we have Jared Hammond taking on Michael Kuyper. Jared Hammond, 13-4 on his pro career, has a losing record of 2-3 in 5 octagon appearances. Suffered a devastating knockout loss to Costa Philippou in his last fight. 10 of his 13 wins have come by way of knockout, but he hasn't finished a fight since... Well, his last finish was against CB Holloway, but he's only got one finish since, I believe, 2009, because his other UFC win came by way of decision. So it's been a while since Hammond has been finishing anybody certainly at the rate that he was finishing them earlier in his career, and that, of course, can be attributed to a step up in competition. Michael Kuyper, 11-1 on his pro career, lost his octagon debut to Rafael Natal in his last fight by way of decision. His last 3 wins have all come by way of knockout or technical knockout, and he has 10. He was on a 9-finish streak. His last 9 fights were all finish wins prior to that loss against Natal. I don't dislike Jared Hammond. I think Jared Hammond's got the warrior spirit. He's a very tough guy. I like Michael Kuyper in this fight, again, based on the fact that you've got a guy in Hammond he's got 10 knockouts, but has only finished one guy by knockout since 2009, and that was only after CB Holloway gassed out real hard. So I'm going to take Michael Kuyper in this fight to finish this fight by knockout or technical knockout inside the second round. And the last fight on the prelim card is in the featherweight division. We have Dennis Bermudez taking on Tommy Hayden. Dennis Bermudez, 8-3 on his pro career. He is an even 1-1 inside the UFC. Decisioned Pablo Garza in his last fight, in what was actually a very good fight and a great performance by Bermudez. 4 of 8 Bermudez's career wins have come by way of decision. He's a Div 1 wrestler. He's got some knockout power. I think 3 of his 8 wins are knockouts. So Bermudez is an all-around fighter. His wrestling is definitely his main strength. Tommy Hayden, 8-1 on his pro career, losing his octagon debut to Fabricio Camoes by way of submission. He's well-rounded. He's a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. 7 of his 8 pro wins have been finishes. He's a more dangerous ground fighter than he is stand-up. I believe 5 of his 7 finishes are submissions, I believe. I really like what I saw out of Dennis Bermudez in his last fight. Hayden maybe in a little bit over his head with Bermudez. It's a step up in competition. I'm going to take Dennis Bermudez, and I'm going to take Bermudez by way of a cautious unanimous judges decision. So let's start with the main card. In the featherweight division, we have Justin Lawrence taking on Max Holloway. Before I toss out a prediction here, last time I made a prediction with Max Holloway, was it last time? Or no, I guess it was the time before. No, yeah, it was the time before in Holloway's UFC debut. I caught one guy, I can't remember who it was, telling me all these great things about Max Holloway and everything like that. So I'm almost kind of afraid to bet against Max Holloway in the future, because I don't want that guy losing his shit again. Justin Lawrence, undefeated 4-0 in his pro career. He won his UFC debut with a vicious knockout of, I can't remember his first name. His last name's Kuyper. There's a vicious head kick knockout in the 3rd round. Justin Lawrence, primarily a stand-up fighter. He's an 8-time national or Pan-American kickboxing champion. He's also a 4-time boxing champion. So he's got a championship pedigree in terms of his stand-up. Max Holloway, 5-1 on his pro career. He is 1-1 in the UFC. Decisioned Pat Schilling in his last fight in a very impressive striking performance. The thing about Max Holloway, he's a dynamic striker, but he's slightly pillow-fisted. Like he lands a lot of strikes. I think it was like 7 some strikes a minute, which is huge. But he's only got 1 knockout to his credit in MMA. So I mean, 4 of his 5 wins have been decisions. So maybe a little bit pillow-fisted. He hits a lot, but it doesn't necessarily have a ton behind it. But he's a very dynamic striker. He throws in a lot of flying knees, very solid kicks, solid strikes, very good combo puncher. I'm taking Max Holloway. I don't think he'll finish Justin Lawrence by any means. I think Lawrence has quite a good chin on him. But I'm going to take Holloway by way of unanimous judges' decision. In the middleweight division, Yushin Thunder Okami taking on Buddy Roberts. I love Buddy Roberts' name. Okami, 26-7 on his pro career, 10-4 record in the UFC. Currently riding a 2-loss streak to Anderson Silva and Tim Boesch. That Tim Boesch fight he should have won. I believe he got a little cocky, and then Boesch put him away in the 3rd round. Both of those losses, by the way, coming by way of TKO. Again, he was very impressive in that fight against Boesch. And especially in the 2nd round, Okami took Boesch down and was beating him up hard. So Okami was very impressive in that fight. Again, couldn't put it away. Buddy Roberts, 12-2 on his pro career. He won his UFC debut against Kyle Magalesh. I believe I pronounced his first name right. That was by way of decision. Currently riding a 6-fight win streak, so he's definitely riding high in the saddle. 9 of his 12 pro wins have come by way of finishes. That's 4 knockouts and 5 submissions. I have to take Yushin Okami here. If Yushin Okami can't beat Buddy Roberts, he might want to consider moving to a different division because, he lost to Silva so convincingly that as long as Silva has the belt, Okami should never get another title shot. Then he lost to Boesch, which, in my eyes, knocked him down to like the bottom part of the top 10, like barely holding on. If he loses to Buddy Roberts, that's 3 straight losses. It won't cut him because Okami puts on good performances, but he may want to consider moving to a different division. I'm going to take Yushin Okami by way of unanimous judges' decision. Middleweight division, we have Jake Shields taking on Ed Herman, and I think this is a terrible stylistic matchup for Jake Shields. I think he's in a lot of trouble in this fight. Shields, 27-6-1 on his pro career. He is an even 2-2 in the UFC with a decision win over Yoshihiro Akiyama in his last fight, in a fight that I didn't particularly enjoy, mostly because it was 3 rounds, basically, of Jake Shields striking. This is Shields' return to the middleweight division. He's got 10 submission wins on his career. He's one of the best ground fighters, certainly with his quote-unquote American jiu-jitsu. He's definitely one of the best ground fighters, but he has lost a step or two from the guy that he was when he fought Dan Henderson. You know what I mean? He's just not the same Shields. No finishes in any fights since 2009. But you look at Ed Herman. Ed Herman, 20-7 on his pro career, 7-5 in the UFC. Currently riding a 3-fight win streak against Clifford Starks, Kyle Noak, and Crazy Tim Crater. All very solid wins. All 3 of those wins, by the way, coming by way of the finish, 2 straight submissions. I used to really not like Ed Herman. I'm really coming around on Ed Herman now. I like Ed Herman in this fight. I think Herman's got so many more ways that he can win this fight than can Shields. I don't think Shields is going to be able to take him down, even if he could. Herman is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I think Herman can handle himself on the ground. I'm taking Ed Herman to win this fight by way of 3rd round knockout or technical knockout. Going to the co-main event of the evening in the lightweight division, we have Donald Cowboy Cerrone taking on Melvin the Young Assassin Guillard. Donald Cerrone, 18-4-1 on his pro career. He is 5-1 in the UFC, so very good UFC record, with a decision victory over Jeremy Stevens, standing as his last fight. He has not been finished in over 2 years of fighting, and has 13 pro wins out of his 18 coming by way of submission. He is a slick and dangerous striker, and his ground game is exactly where it needs to be, and that's going to be a huge problem for Melvin Guillard. Guillard, 30-10-2-1 on his pro career. He is 12-6 in the UFC, so a wealth of UFC experience. Had a decision win against Fabricio Camoes in his last fight. 19 of his wins have come by way of knockout in mixed martial arts. He really, really needs to keep this fight standing because 9 of his 10 losses have been by submission. Basically, all I have to say about this fight is to try to do my best Greg Jackson impression. Go get some, Donald Cerrone. Donald Cerrone, round 1, submission to beat Melvin Guillard. Takes us to the main event of the evening. Lightweight championship fight. Benson Henderson defending the belt that he won from his opponent in the last fight, Frankie the Answer Edgar. Benson Henderson 16-2 on his pro career, undefeated 4-0 in the UFC, leaving a pile of top contenders in his wake. Frankie Edgar, Clay Guida, Jim Miller, and Mark Bocek are his 4 UFC wins. All 4 have been impressive. He's a dynamic striker. He's a southpaw, which causes all kinds of stylistic question marks for any opponent that he runs into. Benson Henderson is an all-world talent, a guy that was underrated, I believe, for a long time. Frankie Edgar, 14-2-1 on his pro career, 9-2-1 in the UFC, was again decisioned by Benson Henderson in the last fight, lost the title. Frankie Edgar is the wrestle boxer blueprint. Like, he has good takedowns. He has good takedown defense. He ducks in and out very well. Keeps his opponents at range. Has what's bordering on a legendary chin. I mean, you got guys. Tyson Griffin couldn't knock him out. Sean Shirk couldn't knock him out. B.J. Penn couldn't knock him out. And with all the power strikes and everything that Gray Maynard threw at him, Gray Maynard couldn't finish him twice. So, Edgar's chin is the thing of legend, or it's building up that way anyways. And again, Benson is a strong striker, and Benson could not finish him in the last fight. He still won the fight, but couldn't finish him. Really, I expect more of the same in this fight from what happened in the previous one. I think both guys are going to learn from their mistakes, and I think it's going to mostly negate each other. I'm going to have to go with Benson Henderson to defend the title relatively convincingly. Benson Henderson winning this fight, unanimous judges' decision, retaining the lightweight title, setting up his next opponent, Nate Diaz. Can't wait to see Nate Diaz get the next title shot at lightweight. Those are my predictions for UFC 150. Going to run them down for you one more time. Starting in the featherweight division, we have Nick Lentz TKOing Eiji Mitsuoka in the second round. We have Dustin Paige with a unanimous judges' decision victory over Chico Camus in the bantamweight division. Also at bantamweight, we have Ken Stone with a third-round TKO against Erik Perez. Moving up to middleweight, we have Michael Kuyper TKOing or knocking out Jared Hammond in the second round. And the final fight on the prelim cards in the featherweight division, Dennis the Menace Bermudez with a unanimous judges' decision over Tommy Hayden. Moving on to the main card, at featherweight, we have Max Holloway with a unanimous judges' decision victory over Justin Lawrence. We have Yushin Okami with a unanimous judges' decision victory over Buddy Roberts in the middleweight division. Also at middleweight, we have short fuse Ed Herman knocking out or TKOing Jake Shields in the third round. At lightweight, we have Donald Cowboy Cerrone submitting Melvin Guillard inside the first round. And at the lightweight division, main event of the evening, we have Ben Smooth Henderson defending the lightweight title, defeating Frankie Edgar by way of 5-round unanimous judges' decision. That's it for me. Those are the UFC picks. Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. Congratulations to the UFC for hitting 150 marquee events. Would have liked to maybe seen a slightly better card for it, but I think it's going to be a good card anyways. Everybody should watch. I'm out.